Hey guys, it's Sir Speedster and welcome back to the Hardcore Minecraft 1.0 experience. Last time we ventured into the caves and found a mine shaft as well as every resource we could possibly want. Granted, I only have 2 diamonds, but that's alright. I wanted to spend some time on the overworld today, so I decided today I'm gonna make a farm. To start off, I needed to choose where I was gonna put my farm. I decided on a spot that's right behind but also to the right of my house. Those villages in the first episode left me with a lot of seed, so I decided to make a really big farm. To start, I decided to fill in this little dip in the ground before going to bed. When the next morning came, I cleared away all the little patches of grass around the area. I decided I needed more space, so I cleared away some of the hill. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like leaving things flat up and down, so I made it a little bit more natural. Finally, it's time to get to work on the farm. I decided to do rows of 15, meaning that each row would get me 5 loaves of bread. After planting the first 2 rows, I went over to the pond nearby to fill up a bucket of water so I can get the crops watered. Now I can use the classic infinite water trick so I never have to go back to the pond. After I planted the 3rd row, I decided to surround the whole thing with gravel so I could connect it to my walkway. By the time the sun was setting, I had officially decided on having 6 rows of 15 for my farm. I went ahead and finished up the last of the gravel and I finally went to bed. The next morning, I remember I saw clay in the pond from yesterday, so I decided to go over and dig it up. After digging up the clay from the pond, I went and grabbed my gravel and finished my pathway between my farm to my house. Hey, remember when fences only required you to have sticks? 'Cause I sure didn't. Seriously, it took me like 5 minutes to remember it. But hey, I did remember it, so I spent the rest of the day going back and forth to my house to secure my farm. And by the time I was done, it was beautiful. I figured since the pathway to my farm from my house is a bit long, I should get a street light. So I went out and found some squid so I can get some squid ink to make a black wool block. But that's not all I came out here to do. I figured since there's a river nearby, I should make something for it. So I started the construction on a dock. But I figured I should go back to make my black wool block so I can finish my street light before I forget. I returned to the docks and tested out a couple of styles, but I really didn't like any of them, so I just went with the standard wood planks on top, followed by oak logs going down to the bottom. I know it's a bit boring, but it's a small river, so I can't really get away with a more complicated design. I spent the rest of the day behind my house digging out the rest of the hill because I'm gonna need the extra space to make my sugarcane farm. I finished digging out the hill and went to collect as much sand as I could so I can plant a sugarcane. At first I was gonna make it a relatively small farm, but I decided no, I'm gonna go all out, and decided to make it just as big as my wheat farm. Which meant a lot more of the hill had to be dug out for it. Just barely digging out enough space for it, plus also placing in 2 rows of sand already took the whole rest of the day. When the new day came, I went back to working on my sugarcane farm. And honestly, it was the most tedious day so far. I had to fill in a chunk of the pond, make it look natural, and dig up a lot more sand because I needed way more for my sugarcane farm. Technically, I didn't need the extra sand, but I wanted to make the water between the crops sand instead of dirt. It just looks a lot better in my opinion. Finally, after a long day's work, I'm done. All that's left to do now is place the fences around it. But unfortunately the sun was setting, so I had to wait till tomorrow. The next morning I returned to working on the farm. Not only would today be about placing fence around the farm, but I'm also connecting it to my wheat farm. Once again I had to bust out the shovel to level more of the hill. And I'm starting to realize at some point I'm gonna have to get rid of this whole hill. But that's for a future video. Finally, after multiple days I'm done with the sugarcane farm. And while I was enjoying some victory steak, a skeleton appeared from the cave and tried to kill me. But he was a pushover, so I don't care. Seeing that skeleton reminded me that I had basically used all my gravel for this, so I went into the cave to dig up some gravel. And turns out there was a lot of gravel, and I didn't know when to stop. But I stopped. Eventually. Don't look at the sun, I swear it wasn't there that long. The next morning I discovered some squids had spawned in my pond, so I did what anyone else would do, and killed them. What, I may need more squid ink for the future. Don't judge me. I went ahead and filled in more of the pond for later use, and now I have a lot more land for future farms. I spent the last bit of my day reorganizing all my resources in my chest and harvesting whatever sugarcane I can so I can plant more of it. Yeah, I didn't get much done today. But the next day was a special day. Because the next day, my wheat farm was finally ready for harvest. Look at how beautiful it is. So many days of work, and it finally paid off. Just look at all that beautiful wheat. As the sun began setting over my world once again, I took a look back at everything I had achieved so far. Once again, the feeling of these small little farms is more than the biggest farms I've made in recent Minecraft. The pattern continues of this 1.0 world, making me feel more accomplished than I've had in Minecraft for years. And once again, I can't wait for next time.